Alright, so in this video we are painting and finishing this mini lifted muscle car project. Now I did want to take this thing off-roading one more time to test the new suspension to make sure it's working properly before painting and finishing this, but I just never really got an opportunity to go off-roading with somebody, and going off-roading by yourself isn't really that smart of an idea, especially when this engine hasn't really been that most reliable. So we do have Mini Mayhem coming up. I think it's in 3 weeks as I'm filming this. I am bringing this to Mini Mayhem, and I was considering testing the suspension at Mini Mayhem and then painting it after, but I really want to paint a couple projects before winter comes and it gets too cold to paint. So for this project, I'd say let's just paint and finish it now before Mini Mayhem. Yeah, that actually wasn't that hard to completely tear this whole thing apart. I think it only took me about 4 hours. Now, obviously the next thing we need to do is we need to wire wheel the entire frame, get all the rust off of it, and clean it up, get it ready for paint. Then we also have to do the same to all the suspension and A-arms and trailing arms, and we got to clean up those and get everything ready for paint. Alright, so about a day and a half later of wire wheeling, and I got the whole frame all cleaned up, got all the suspension cleaned up. Now, you guys have already seen the thumbnail, so you guys should know what color I'm painting this, but basically I'm painting this black, and I'm painting most of the suspension and most of the parts that can be bolted off. I'm painting those black, and I'm painting the fiberglass body a lighter shade of blue. Now, originally I was going to paint all of the suspension black as well, but now I'm thinking if I paint like the A-arms and trailing arms, I think they'll stand out a lot better, and I think it'll look a lot better. So I'm also going to be painting those the same color as the fiberglass body. So now the reason I'm doing this now before Mini Mayhem is mainly I want to have this thing finished for Mini Mayhem, but also once I get back from Mini Mayhem, I really want to start a couple new projects, and I know I've been really bad at starting new projects without finishing past projects, so that's why I'm finishing this one now. So therefore, once I get back from Mini Mayhem, I can start a couple new projects. So, I decided to heavily strengthen up these bottom A-arms by taking this 1¼ inch piece of tubing, cutting it in half, and welding it to the outsides of both sides of these A-arms, because actually, when I got back from Mini Mayhem, I noticed that the Baja bug right here, right where the heim joint, or right where the bung for the heim joint attaches to the 1-inch tubing, the 1-inch tubing actually split in half. Ah, when did that happen? Ah, that's not good. And almost fell off, which is definitely not good. And I think it happened because I actually had to machine the inner diameter of this 1-inch tubing a lot bigger. So therefore the bung will fit in here, which I think caused a really bad weak point right here in the metal. I think that's why it split in half. So, and I had to do the same on these A-arms, causing the same weakness, so I added just more tubing on the outside of here to strengthen up right here. I also added that tubing all the way down here just to strengthen up these bottom A-arms a lot more, because I really want to make sure that these will never bend or break. Yeah, it's probably too dark and you guys can't see anything. Yeah, you guys can't even see a thing. Alright, so most of the frame has its first coat of paint. Next, we need to start working on getting this fiberglass body painted. Now, before we paint this, we obviously need to fix some of the really badly damaged areas. This ripped in half years ago, and I glued it back together. This ripped off at the last mini mayhem. Gotta fix that. This back here still split in half. Gotta glue that back together. And I'm not gonna get too crazy with this. I want to just, you know, fix and repair the really badly damaged areas, because there is a lot of really small cracks and scratches, and yeah, I don't want to spend too much time getting this thing perfect, because it is an off-road vehicle. It is going to get damaged and scratched up and bad, you know, dinged up and everything. So I'm only going to repair the really badly damaged areas and then sand this whole thing down and get it ready for paint.
No! No! Wow, that hardened fast. Dang it! Dang it, it just hardened. This was not even 3 minutes. I wonder if I put too much hardener in it. Well, I guess I can reuse the container now. That's garbage. I'm gonna go mix up another batch. I'll do a much smaller one this time. Here we go. Don't take my time this time.
So this is the second layer of Bondo that I had to do. The first layer wasn't thick enough. So yeah, hopefully this layer is thick enough. Alright, while we're waiting for the fiberglass to cure, so therefore we can start putting the Bondo on, I think let's work on this XLT 600 again. Now, a couple videos ago of this project, I did do a top-end rebuild of this engine, but after doing that, some of you guys were saying that possibly the reason why these engines are really hard to start could be the crankshaft seals. If they do leak, causes it to run lean, causes it to not really want to fire up, not really be that reliable. I didn't really think about that when I last rebuilt this thing. I didn't really want to get into the bottom end of this engine because I was, hoping it was fine. I only did a top end rebuild, but now that I know that, replacing the crankshaft seals could make it a little bit more reliable, I'd say, yeah, while this thing is out of the frame, I'd say let's take this thing apart again and replace those crankshaft seals. Now, another reason why I kind of want to take this thing apart is, I will admit, last time I had this thing at Mini Mayhem, I was kind of running really cheap air filters, and this thing inhaled some sand, which is definitely not good, so I want to clean that out, and I bought much better air filters this time. Also, if the crankshaft bearings are bad and need replacing, that kind of throws a monkey wrench into this, because I'm definitely not going to be able to have time to replace those bearings. If they do need replacing, so I'm really, really hoping the crankshaft bearings are fine and we can just tear this thing apart, clean out all the sand, replace the crankshaft seals, and slap this thing back together. So I just had an idea of what if we painted this the same color blue as we're painting the fiberglass body. I think that'd be kind of cool. So, I've never used one of these, so hopefully it works. Nice. Oops. This does not want to come off. There it goes. Holy crap. Yeah, it's definitely good that I'm cleaning out this engine. I mean, I could just feel like, yeah, that's a lot of sand, a lot of grit in here. Luckily, the bearings sound fine. They sound a tad crunchy, but I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some sand in them, so I'll try to clean out the bearings as well. So I'm actually going to use some soap and water to clean these up. Of course the container's not big enough. Dang it. So, I will admit, when I first took this apart, these bearings definitely sounded crunchy, which is definitely not good, but I took a bunch of carb cleaner and compressed air and sprayed it into the bearing to try and get any sand or gunk out, and I just lubricated them with some two-stroke oil, and now they sound a lot better. You can barely hear them spinning. Yeah, definitely a lot better than it was before. So, also these seals, while they're not cracked or anything, but I can definitely tell they weren't sealing properly. This one had a bunch of gunk around it, around the seals, and you can tell it wasn't sealing perfectly. So, hopefully replacing these seals is going to fix the issues of this engine really having a hard time starting and not being that reliable. Alright, so we got the bottom end mostly assembled. Now I ran into a slight issue with the pistons, and I'm surprised I didn't notice this last time I was rebuilding this engine, but I noticed this while I was taking the engine apart and inspecting it. I noticed that two of the pistons, the piston ring gap on the bottom piston ring, is not clocked correctly on the piston, causing it to be in the opening of the intake. It's supposed. I took pictures of it, so I'll show pictures on the screen. I took pictures of the two that are wrong, but how it's supposed to be. This one's correct, where the bottom piston ring gap is in the middle of the piston, so therefore it rides on, because the piston rings actually go down past the opening for the intake and exhaust ports. That's how two-strokes work. And the bottom piston ring is supposed to be in the middle, so therefore it rides against the bridge in the middle of the two intake ports. For some reason, these two pistons are wrong, and the piston rings are clocked to the left of the intake ports, causing the ends of the piston rings to be in the middle of the intake port. And it's not like I can just simply move the piston ring over. From the factory, they're drilled and there's little pins installed in the piston rings to keep the piston ring gap in that exact center, but for some reason, these two pistons are wrong. This one's correct, and I'll be honest, when I first saw that, I thought, crap, I installed two of the pistons backwards, but turns out, no, that they're not backwards. The arrows are pointing in the correct direction. I triple checked it. It's just, for some reason, these two pistons, they're clocked incorrectly, and I have no idea why. I'm glad I saved the old pistons. I actually looked at the old pistons, and sure enough, the bottom piston ring gap is in the middle where it's supposed to be. I even checked the Baja Bug, and I couldn't see any of the piston ring gaps in the middle of the intake on the Baja Bug. So for some reason, I just got bad pistons, and basically the only way, because unfortunately I don't have time to buy new pistons and wait for them to get here to finish rebuilding this engine. I kind of really need to finish this today, and I was considering reusing some of the old pistons that I had. I'm not going to do that, but on the mini Baja Bug project, I am planning on doing an engine swap on that, so we don't need that engine anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rob two pistons off of that engine to use for this engine, because those pistons are correct and these are wrong, just so I can finish this rebuild, get this thing back together, and start working on reassembling the frame, so therefore I can finish, because I'm really trying to make this to where it's not a two-part video of painting this project. I really want it to just be one video, start to finish, painting the whole thing, and I guess I'm doing an engine rebuild in the middle of it. So yeah, this is something we definitely have to fix, because yeah, it's definitely not good, and I'm really surprised we didn't break a piston ring in half, because they're definitely not supposed to be, you know, the ends of the piston ring gaps are not supposed to be in the middle of an intake port or an exhaust port. So also, I accidentally broke one of the magnets off of the flywheel. Whoopsies. Apparently you're not supposed to hammer on these things when they don't want to come off. I'm not sure if it was because I was hammering on it or because I heated it up, but there's some pretty big, you know, pretty bad dings right here, right next to the magnet where it broke, where I was hitting it with a hammer, so I'm pretty sure it was from hitting this with a hammer. So we're also going to have to borrow the flywheel off of that engine, as well as the pull starter, because the pull starter in that engine is a lot better on this one for some reason. This one just doesn't really want to, you know, it doesn't grab immediately for some reason. So yeah, let's go pull the Baja Bug out and start robbing parts off of that project to use to finish this engine rebuild. So here's a close-up of all the pistons. Again, these two are the faulty ones. This one is correct. Now, as you can see on these pistons, there's a little pin that clocks these piston rings in the correct orientation. And for some reason, on these two, the pin is on the bottom piston ring is to the left of the center. I drew a line down the middle of the pistons, and you can see the bottom piston ring end gap is to the left, where the top one is in the center, where it's supposed to be like this. The bottom piston ring end gap is in the middle of the piston, and the top one is to the left. So I have no idea why these two are faulty. I don't know if I just bought a cheap top-end rebuild kit, but yeah, we definitely cannot use these. Also, here's a close-up of the magnet that I broke on the flywheel. It just kind of snapped in half, I guess. So yeah, do not hit these with a hammer. So I was just about to pull this flywheel off when I'm like, hang on, that looks a little bit smaller, and sure enough, they're not the same size. Yeah, this one is a little bit smaller than this one. So yeah, crap. Now I think the easiest way to fix this is just going to be JB Weld the magnet in place. Now, I think this will be fine because the magnets are on the inside of the flywheel. If the magnets were on the outside of the flywheel, I would absolutely not do this, because obviously as this is spinning, it's trying to pull the magnets out, and if the magnets are on the outside, that could cause it to fly off. But because the magnets are on the inside, gravity is trying to pull the magnets in place. So I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be safe just gluing this in place. It's definitely going to be the easiest way to fix this. So we'll do an engine swap on this project soon, but for now, thank you for your pistons. I will put them to good use. That is never fun by yourself. So I'm probably not gonna bother filming the rest of putting this engine together because I've kind of already filmed rebuilding this engine, so yeah, and this video is mostly about just painting this project, so yeah, I'll come back once this thing is fully reassembled. Alright, so I was able to finish the rebuild of this engine, and honestly, that was kind of a pain. Rebuilding two strokes is supposed to be simple. There's, not that many moving parts, but the issue with the flywheel, the issue with the pistons, kind of made it take a lot longer than it should have, rebuilding this thing, but it's a good thing I fixed that. I think over time, if I left those pistons with the ring gap in the wrong spot, I think if I left it, eventually they would have broken and caused really bad damage, and I would have had to do another rebuild, so it's a good thing I fixed that. Now, it's also good that I replaced the crankshaft seals because the original ones, while they weren't in terrible condition, I can kind of tell that they weren't sealing properly. There was a bunch of gunk in the seal, so yeah, hopefully replacing those will finally fix the issue of this engine being really hard to start and not wanting to idle properly. So anyway, now that this is done, let's continue working on putting the Bondo on the fiberglass and trying to get that thing ready for paint. So, I just sanded the whole thing. I didn't take all the paint off. I probably should, but that's going to be a lot of sanding. And at least I tried to get the top coat off. So, next, I'm going to spray paint it with this primer. Alright, while we're waiting for the primer to dry, let's start reassembling the frame. So I did find a little bit of sand in these carburetors, so I had to clean them out, but I didn't bother filming cleaning them. Alright, so some of you may have noticed the gas tank's not installed yet, the seat's missing, the wiring is not hooked up properly. Yeah, I was not able to finish this reassembly in time, and I just kind of had to throw the fiberglass body on and just call it good enough, and so therefore I can finish this video. I really wanted to get B-roll of this thing outside in the driveway, but yeah, that didn't happen. Obviously it's dark, and today is actually Sunday at like 8:30, almost 9 o'clock, and yeah, this took kind of a really long time trying to finish painting this project. I really wanted to do this in one video, and it was kind of stretching it, doing it in one bit. Yeah, normally painting a project normally takes really long, but add on top of having to learn how to do fiberglass, I had to add 3 coats of Bondo on here. I had to paint the fiberglass, as well as we did an engine rebuild again. So yeah, this was kind of a lot of work in one video. This is probably going to be a very long video. Now, what do you guys think of the color that I chose? Honestly, do I like it? I haven't really decided yet if I like it or not. I knew I wanted to paint this thing blue, but I didn't want to paint this thing the same shade of blue that the fiberglass body was. I kind of wanted to go one shade lighter blue, but I kind of think I chose too light of a color. I kind of wish I went 1 or 2 shades of blue darker, because this thing kind of looks like a giant M&M. So, I don't know. I did also want to paint a black racing stripe somewhere on the fiberglass. I think that would have looked awesome, but did not have time for that, so maybe I'll add that later on. Now, Mini Mayhem with Cars and Cameras is coming up as I'm filming this. I think it's in 2 weeks, and I think I upload this video on the weekend of Mini Mayhem. So that's why I really wanted to finish this and get it ready. So therefore, there's a project that I really want to start before I leave for Mini Mayhem. So that's why I really wanted to finish this in one video. But yeah, I'm going to have to finish the reassembly some other time, because tomorrow I really want to finish the Raptor 660 engine rebuild to get that thing out of the way, so therefore I can start the next project. I'm actually starting the engine swap on the Baja Bug. I really want to start doing that. So anyway, I guess that's it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video. So one thing I'm noticing is, why does this look like a darker shade of blue than this? It's the exact same spray paint can. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but in person, this is a darker shade of blue. So yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not really sure if I like the color that I chose. I knew I wanted I knew I wanted blue. I wanted a lighter shade of blue than the fiberglass body already was, but I think I chose too light of a color. And I'm already thinking, how hard would it be to repaint it? Because I mean, it looks like a toy. It looks like a child's toy. So I don't want to say that I hate the paint, the paint color that I chose, but I'm not exactly loving it, to be honest. And it looks kind of terrible. It's really splotchy. There's some like really glossy parts next to kind of matte. Like this is matte, that's glossy, matte. You know, matte and glossy. So yeah, definitely didn't do that great of a spray paint job, to be honest. Plus you can see all these little scratches, and especially in the hood. Yeah, look at all that. Yeah, didn't really want to spend the time to try and get those removed. Try to fill them in with Bondo, but I was hoping that they were gonna blend in a little bit, but not really. These don't look bad. For the condition that they were originally, that doesn't look bad at all. Especially this side with that huge chunk that was taken out of it right there. You know, again, not perfect. A little bit wavy, a little bit wrinkly. Yeah, you can see the reflections. It's not perfect, but you know what? It's an off-road vehicle. It's gonna get beaten up. It's gonna get scratched up. So it is good enough.